relentless in the war. The legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls. The spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest. The cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Trembling in the haze with the semblance of a blaze. With gratitude and rage, we touch another page. With delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded. The teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand. Stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. The world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, the world to you. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demon searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.
Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Welcome one and all to the inaugural episode, ladies and gentlemen, of Getting Ish Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. Yes. Shout out to Red Sings the Blues and Soul Provider and everyone showing up in the house. We have Kareem Sharif in the house. Great topic tonight. And we are excited for the series, okay? We are very excited. You can tell people years down the line that I was there. Yes, it was January 2021, the first episode of Getting Shit Done. I was there. And today, we're talking about sloth. We're talking about tackling sloth. And as is implied from the name of this series, we're tackling things from a very pragmatic, very systematic, very approachable, very actionable level, okay? So how are you doing, Dr. Thunder? How are you doing? And how are you feeling excited about this? Are we ready to rock?
Man, I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get it. Young Swift in the house. Red Sings the Blues in the house. So what is sloth, okay? Let's start out talking about that. Like basically what it is, we recognize it as one of the 7 deadly sins. If you look up a definition, it talks about basically being a disinclination to action. It's a disinclination to action or labor, indolence, spiritual apathy, right? Basically laziness, all right? But it manifests itself in many different ways, okay? It's not just as simple as, oh, you know what, I don't feel like getting out of bed today, or I'm stuck on the couch eating Cheetos and playing video games. That's just one manifestation of it. That's kind of like the laziness, inertia, lethargy, apathy aspect of it. But also it comes in a form of procrastination, okay? It can be about procrastination, about the fear of the unknown, Inability to delay gratification is another way in which it manifests itself, okay? Take, for example, you got to do something. You got a book, you know you got to write, okay? You got an LLC, you know you got to start. You have this endeavor. It is a grand endeavor. It could be as high as your calling in life or whatever the hell it is, or maybe something a little bit more simple, okay? Maybe it's a pile of clothes over there that you need to put in the laundry, right? But rather than do that, something comes in your head that says, hey, rather than satisfy ourselves by doing this thing and achieving, let's go and get some ice cream. For me, this happens, okay? It's okay, I got some work to do. But it's like, you know what? Before we do the work, how about we go downstairs and make a nice meal? Right? It'd be okay. We'll just come back later. Let's make a nice meal. Now I know what's gonna happen after I eat that food, okay? It's gonna slow me down. And then guess what? It's gonna be like, you know what? Let's take a little nap first before. So this is all a manifestation of the same thing. These are all aspects of it. And then there's the self-sabotage aspect, okay? I call it the self-sabotage aspect in the sense that, okay, you're feeling like a loser because you haven't gotten it done. You're feeling like a loser because there is the blank page looking at you for that novel you're saying you're going to write. The pile of clothes or the dishes or whatever the hell it is that you're supposed to do. It's staring at you. Because you didn't do it, you're feeling like a loser. And you're saying, I suck. And the more you have that feeling of I suck, guess what? The less likely you are to do it. Let me get a one in the chat if you understand that self-sabotage aspect, okay? There's something that you need to get done, okay? You don't get it done. The more you don't get it done, the less you feel worthy of actually doing it. Like, you know what? It's like, I'm a loser anyways. I haven't done this thing in a week. It should have been done like a couple of weeks ago. And it's just a snowball, okay? So from something as simple as the manifestation in terms of laziness and so on and so forth, all the way through procrastination, inability to delay gratification, and the self-sabotage. This is what we're tackling today, and we're going to give practical advice. So what comes to mind for you, Dr. Thunder? Like, you know, when we think about this topic, and what's the relevance, you know, generally speaking?
Yeah, you know, the reason for this topic, I mean, this is part of the human condition. I mean, have you seen a baby? No one, babies are lazy. No one is born disciplined, right? You have to develop that. You have to fight this, this apathy, this sloth. You have to fight it off. You can't just think that it's just going to go away by itself. You know, and I think one thing that has happened during this pandemic is a lot of this stuff has gotten worse for folks. I mean, this is real talk. A lot of this has gotten worse. And because often is the case that motivation for many is external, right? It's being seen. It's, you know, people knowing that you're about something and kind of giving you some applause for, you know, for getting accomplishments completed. You know, it's all of that kind of stuff. As a musician, as a performer, it's analogous to, well, it's not just analogous to, I mean, an experience I know a lot of musicians are having is, although there's more time to practice right now because there are less, you know, gigs and less opportunities to perform, but a lot of musicians have a lot less motivation to practice now, right? Because they don't have that performance, that, you know, reason to practice, reason to perfect, the external reason to perfect their skill, right? And now I'm more of a fan of internal forms of motivation, but not everybody is that way, right? Some folks, you know, really, really struggle, you know, to come up with internal forms of motivation. And so the external thing, so you have to find some ways, some constructive ways, however you're wired, you know, to figure that thing out. So yeah, I mean, so the reason for this is that, you know, with the pandemic, with all the isolation, you know, it can be it can be really tough, and you can sort of be left to your own devices, as as it were. And like I said, it's not going to get better by itself. You're not going to just wake up one morning and be like, you know what? Now I finally feel like going and doing stuff. Personally, the motivation thing to me is you have to be able to do things when you're inspired and when you're not. I mean, you have to do things because it's the right thing to do. And I'm not going to suggest that, so there's this, the routine, this, establishing a new routine. What is it? 28 days or something. You do something the same, every day for 28 days. And supposedly it's you're in this routine now. Right. And the way that thing is always presented is as if it is magic. As long as you can get to that 28th day, then you'll no longer have to struggle or have to work hard anymore, because it will be easy. Right. It's like the thing that people say about going to the gym. All right. Now, look, I'm a 5 days a week guy. I haven't been 5 days this week, but I'm normally a 5 days a week, guy. And there's been several times when I actually got all the way to the gym and I got dressed, ready to go out and work out, went out on the, where the machines were, sat down, did a few reps, and then went back in the locker room and went home. And that is because the work is not getting to the gym. The work is actually the work. Right. So sometimes some of those tricks, I think people get sort of frustrated, or they feel like something's wrong with them because, the magic solution that everybody presents, this routine, this routine, I'm going to call it a myth, this routine myth, that if you get to that 28 days, if you can just get yourself to the gym, if you can just get yourself to start this, if you can just get yourself, man, sometimes that really does help, and a lot of times it doesn't.
You put quite a bit there on the table, and I had not thought, given us intrinsically motivated people, this came to mind first of all when the pandemic first came around, when it was the case that some people are feeling it differently than others, right? Some people are quote unquote suffering more than others, right? But from the point of view of getting stuff done, I never actually considered this intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation aspect. Yeah, some people do need to be in the office for that Monday morning meeting where they keep tabs and they get a pat on the back, right? And those people, I'm sure, are because actually those people are the majority. Okay, just to be majority of people are more
that's true. That's
extrinsically motivated than intrinsically motivated. So and then you talk about also the systems, the systems, the habits versus the actual doing of work. That the systems can only get you so far. Driving, just getting in your car, and get to the gym, that can only get you so far. Then you still got to get the work done. Okay. We still got to get the work done. Shout out to Snuggles for the $5 super chat. He says, who are these people talking? Yeah, he's trolling a little bit. And, oh boy, yeah, people are commenting on my beard. Beards grow back. People are funny about hair. Like, it's kind of like, it's like, it grows back, right? just give it a couple of weeks. It'll come back. And then, but I just had to, as a matter of fact, to be honest, I was doing something and then I made a mistake. And then it all had to go. I was like, it's gone. But it'll come back and it'll be clean again. So now let's get right into the practical, pragmatic aspect, okay? The point of this show, okay, is to give people really clear, simple, actionable advice, if you will. Now, the word advice is a little, I feel a little cringy saying that. I don't want to give people advice. I'm not a licensed professional.
Advice.
However, for me, and okay, we can go back and forth on this, I would like to say that the first thing that comes to mind is acceptance okay? And it was implied in what you said, which is that you said that the human baby is lazy, okay? People
Right.
don't just come out wanting to do stuff. You don't just come out, I'm Conan the Barbarian, right? You know, that's not how it happens. So you got to accept that day in, day out, this is something that you're going to need to face. It is part of your shadow, you're going to need to make friends with it, okay? So that's number one. And then number two, I'm going to have to say that you need to have a system. I'm starting now from when you wake up and you actually feel that lethargy, that apathy, that disinclination to action, that laziness, okay, that inertia. You cannot get up from the couch. You cannot get up from the bed. That is not the time for ad hoc solutions. You are not in a position to be able to just come up with a way to pick yourself out of that situation, right? So a system, in other words, something whereby you can simply follow the motions, where you can be like, every time I'm in this situation, this is what I do. And I have that system, okay? For me, it begins with the body, right? I feel a certain way. There is a certain kind of act that I'm disinclined to do. So I have a checklist. Starts with the body, and the first thing is hydration, okay? So what do? I give myself 45 minutes. Exactly. Cheers. We hydration gang. I always got this. This is my friend right here. I have several of these ones around the house. And first thing I do is to check my hydration levels, okay? And it's usually the case that when I'm feeling that way, there's a correlation too with not being hydrated, right? It just so happens to be that way. I'm not saying it's a cause. As a matter of fact, there is a causal link between your energy level, your vitality, everything. I mean, we're what are we? Is it 75% water or something? So it's not like I need to give the data on that, okay? But having a system, whenever I feel that way, boom, hydration, and I give myself 45 minutes. I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna beat myself up about getting out of bed right now. I'm gonna be like, what I need to do is go fill up that thing with water, and just start drinking. And I give myself 45 minutes until I gotta go to the restroom. It's systematic, okay? And then within an hour and a half, I need to have clear urine. That, by the time I get to that point, usually I'm feeling a lot better, okay? So the first thing I have to say about when you're actually feeling that feeling of disinclination to action, laziness, apathy, I can't get out the couch, I can't put down the video game thing to go do what I need to do. It's like, chill. This is not the time for you to come up with some kind of a, on the spot solution. You need to already have a system that you use for these kinds of situations. And I would say that hydration is the beginning. Go get that water, start systematically downing that water. Do that until your urine is clear. Okay, look, I like to talk, tongue in cheek, that I worship at the Church of Hydration, and clear urine is part of the sacrament. Okay, it's like, when the urine is clear and good, and we're holy, we are pure. Okay, it's serious for me. And it actually does have the effect that you will think that it has. So I don't want to get too far down the line, but that for me is the first thing that I would say. And did you have anything to add to that, Dr. Thunder?
Yeah. And that's great. I find also for me, the hydration thing's very important. If I'm in a stress if I'm going to be facing a stress situation, like if something I'm really anxious about, what my body does is it sort of burns up all of the moisture. And as a performer, you need the moisture. I mean, it starts to dry my mouth out, and I actually start to have an issue where I lose control of the muscles on my face when I get really dehydrated. And if you're noticing that you're dehydrated, and now it's time for you to be on, and you have this big task you have to do, it's too late. You needed to start that an hour and a half, a couple hours earlier. So that's to kind of underscore the hydration thing. But then one of the sort of psychological tricks that I use is I try to work out in the morning. So the way my schedule works is I get up, I get my son up, You know, I have there's this whole, routine. I go down, I let the dog out. I get his lunch ready. After I get his lunch ready, then I go and get our cereal. We eat cereal together every morning. We always eat breakfast together. And so we eat our breakfast. Then I usually finish mine a little bit before he does. I go over and I start getting vitamins. That's another important thing, is having the correct nutrients, right? And most of that should come from the food that you're eating. So if you're eating a bunch of crap and you feel lazy all the time, it could be because you're eating a bunch of crap all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But something that I do is I try to supplement and I take a lot of vitamins. I take vitamin E and fish oil and glucosamine with chondroitin and vitamin D3. I take vitamin C. I take a multivitamin. I take B12. I take, so I have a lot of vitamins that I take, and then I'm trying to start a good habit with my family of the expectation to take vitamins. And so I get my son's vitamins out, and I also get my wife's vitamins. And I put hers somewhere else. He eats his right after he's done. He goes upstairs, does some stuff with my wife, what has to do with getting the rest of his clothes together, comes back down. Then long and short of it is, I get my gym clothes, I get my clothes on when he's upstairs. Then I leave out. Him and I leave out. I drop him off at school, and I go directly to the gym. Now, one of the things that I find is the case is, if I have everything on hand so that I don't have to start thinking, right? I don't have to start thinking about, oh man, I don't have a pre-workout, or I don't have, X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. As soon as I have to start engaging and thinking about things, there's a much more is a higher percentage chance that that I will allow those excuses to prevent me from going to the gym. Okay, so I try to have everything together.
Mm-hmm.
When I have everything together and I go to the gym, then usually I'm feeling all right. I just got up. I have some caffeine. I'm awake. Everything's spry. Okay, I get the workout in. And the thing is that if you do something that's meaningful in the morning, like working out, even if the rest of the day is garbage, you at least did that. So you at least have one feather that you can put in your cap. And often is the case that this thing is psychological. It's not. We're not talking about. There is things about what you put in your body. Hydration. That stuff is very important. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything, right? So yes, that is the case. But once you get beyond that, the next step is, it's almost completely psychological.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost completely psychological. And so you have to find ways to angle the way that you're seeing things, the perspective that you're seeing it from. And that can give you enough edge to at least get you moving.
100%. Yeah, so you kind of continued on from the body aspect that I mentioned, which is basically you are hydrating, okay? And then you are exercising. You mentioned the what you eat. The what you eat aspect, if you have never done a drastic change like an elimination diet, it is very useful, I would suggest. And I'm not saying go change and do the Jordan Peterson diet, and just eat beef and salt or something like that. But what I mean is, for a period of time, just eliminate just a big group. Like, let's say I'm going to just eliminate carbs, right? And then I'm just going to start and see how it makes you feel. You will notice a big change in your actual energy levels, okay? Now, and then you decide what you're going to do. This is not medical advice, ladies and gentlemen. Not even nutrition advice. It's just practical advice about what you put in will really affect your ability to get things done. And that's what we're doing today. Okay, we're talking about getting things done. And then you talked about the routine. That part is very, very key. And so for me, like I have this video that's out there that says, basically, if I were to summarize it, it's using your present self as the assistant. Like you're your personal assistant to your future self. Okay. So for the gym, for example, okay, you need to go to the gym tomorrow. You know that. So you need to have those gym clothes, right? Nice and ready and in a place where you're going to encounter them, where you cannot avoid them, okay? And the socks and everything all correctly, right? If you gotta lay them down right next to the floor where you roll out of bed and you have to step. In other words, make it easier for you. You're reducing. Let's just use the analogy of barrier to entry, right? You're reducing the barrier to entry, or you're reducing the reaction energy, for the chemistry people out there. But you get what I am saying, right? You need to be able to, and this goes to the psychological aspect as well. Well, first of all, yes, it is psychological because when you see those clothes there and you know that you were the one that set them up there, it is easier for you to do it. There's a continuation of a story. There's a storyline. There's no like, oh, you're not like having to switch all of a sudden, switch scene, now new lights, camera, action. Now we're going to the gym. It's like, no, it's a continuation of a story. It's the same me that set this stuff up. And then secondly, you're going to build a certain kind of self-esteem with yourself. Like you can look at it in other aspects. You can go downstairs right now and your sink is filled with dishes. Okay. And you can ignore that and saddle your future self with the dishes. Say, hey, you know what? Future Ike can take care of that. Okay, future Dr. Thunder can take care of that. Or you can do it right now. And when you wake up tomorrow and you go downstairs and you see that they're done, you're going to be actually appreciative of yourself, right?
That's right.
Of your past self for having done that. And this is a counter to that aspect of sloth that has to do with the self-sabotage. Because guess what? As I mentioned earlier, if you don't do the dishes and or whatever it is that you need to do, you haven't started writing the book, you haven't started doing all these things, the longer that continues to happen, the less likely you will actually do it because you're going to start feeling like a loser. And, you'll be like, hey, I'm a loser. I haven't done this thing yet. I was supposed to do it last week. Why even bother? Right. But so the idea of using your present self as nice comment there. Using your present self as an assistant to your future self works in many, many different ways. Number one, you take away the barriers. You take away the barriers from your future self, and then number two, you don't actively put barriers in your future self. So when you run downstairs tomorrow, you see a clear sink. We know that our external environment, when it is ordered and organized, actually affects our motivation and our ability to get things done. And then there's the self-esteem part that you get from, hey, you know what? Ike is a cool guy. Ike did the dishes for me. Ike set this stuff up, and so it's working on many, many levels, and you're able to then get in the car, go to the gym, and get stuff done. So, if you had anything else to add to what I just said, or you want to give us your next pointer there on how you handle this sloth.
Yeah, I think you talked about on one of your bike ride videos that you did.
Yes.
And I think I made a comment I made a comment.
You made a Jordan Peterson comment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And because at least for me, that line of thinking, I think that's where likely where you started thinking that way is Jordan Peterson, and he kind of talks about treating yourself like a community. You yourself are a community. There's the past you, the current, the present you, and the future you. And the past you, you can't control the what happened with the past you, right? But what you can do is you can set up the future you for success. And this sort of reminds me of a conversation I had with my dad. So I was considering going back to school to get my doctorate
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and this is after, I have a kid, I'm married, tenured professor, um, and all of this. So what it was going to mean was that I was going to have to put a huge pile of stuff on top of all of the stuff that I'm already doing.
Hmm.
And so, I was a little bit on the fence about it. Um, it was something that I wanted to do, but I kept kind of going back to the fence. And one time I had a conversation with my dad, and he just said it to me like this. He said, 5 years from now, he was just trying to think of a number that made sense. 5 years from now, you'll either have the degree or you won't have the degree. He says, but the thing is, if you don't have the degree, you won't even remember why it was that you that you didn't go ahead and get the degree. All you have is potential regret. Right? And and putting it that way, it made a lot of sense to me. I was, even before I had the language for it, even before I had, checked out any Jordan Peterson, it was right there. I wanted to, I wanted to do something for the future me. I wanted to prevent the future me from regret. I don't want to feel regret. I can fail. I can do, make bad mistakes, bad judgments. I can, start something and it just blows up in a bad way. All of that stuff is fine. But I don't want to feel regret because I didn't push forward to go do what it was that I said. And the thing is that it doesn't matter how old you are. That's a great excuse that people use all the time, right? Well, I'm too old to do this, or I'm too that. That doesn't matter. That you can do what you want to do. And I'm why don't you I'm trying to locate this thing because I think that this would be a good time to sort of bring this in. Let's see here. Well, why don't you continue on and I can digress if I need to because it just has something to do with the way that I set my schedule up, and I'm using Google Calendar as a way to to organize all the different things that are happening.
Yeah, let me read some super chats and you can. We got. Hey, you got the sound effect for my guy on the screen?
I do. 1 second. 1 second. Don't do it yet. Yeah.
Hit it. Hey, Solo, you thought we weren't ready for you. You thought we weren't ready for Solo TV84, but we're ready for you.
That's my man
Don
right
DeMarco himself. Shout out to Solo TV84 in the house with the, I believe, $10 super chat. Sprinkle. I know you're out there making money with GameStop and all those other stock and perhaps Dogecoin and all that stuff. So thank you for sharing, Solo TV84. We have L Boyd also with another $10 super chat. Thank you very much. And we have Kweku Isasi. Kweku Isasi with $4.99, $5 super chat. Thank you very much as well. Now, the whole thing about what your dad said, the regret aspect, that is very key. In other words, it's like you look to the future. You could have that degree, and you would have your past self to thank, and you would feel the quote unquote self-esteem, which is a motivating factor because this is about getting over sloth. Okay. And you mentioned that a huge part of it is psychological. Getting in that rot, that state where you don't want to do stuff, is because you did not do stuff in the past. Right. But you need to find a way to break that cycle. So the point that your dad made about, well, if you don't have that degree in 5 years, you're not going to have something to look back to and say, well, you know what? It was because, I fell off that plane that time. There's nothing that's going to be there. You just have potential regret. So very, very key insight there, and very, very pertinent to what I said about, using your past self as an assistant to your future self. You want to be kind to your future self. You want to remove barriers from the path of your future self, and you want to also not place barriers. Don't say, hey, I'll do this later. Okay, that's just putting roadblocks in front of yourself. Just imagine you're on a path, you're going down the road, and you're throwing all these obstacles in front of yourself. You're like, hey, here's a couch. I'm going to throw the couch on the freeway. I'm going to throw a pile of clothes over here in the intersection. You know what? I'm going to put armed robbers on the side over here with the potential of shooting my head off with an AK-47. I'm just going to put all kinds of roadblocks in front of me. That's what you're doing when you don't do. Have you found what you were looking for?
I have.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. Okay. All right. So now it's a little bit grayed out, and so the colors usually are a little more vibrant because this is a long time ago. This is back. So this was my last semester of full-time student working on my doctorate. Now, one of the cool things about Google Calendar is Google Calendar allows you, and actually let me go back 1 week here. Let's see here. Yeah, that's a better. Well, no, because it's spring break for OSU. Let's see here. Actually, this is actually not a great semester. Okay. Okay, here we go. All right, there we go. There we go. So, what this is it's all color coordinated. All of the red stuff were the responsibilities that I had at Ohio State. All of the gray stuff were classes that I was taking at CCM, University of Cincinnati. And it's not on here right now, but I actually had written into the schedule. I had drive time. So I was up at 5:30 or something, and I had to leave it. Actually, I was up at like 5. Had to leave at like 5:30, so I could get where I needed to get to for this class right here, because Cincinnati, especially with the traffic and stuff, was about 2 hours away. And notice this right here. So even when I was doing all this other stuff, I was still trying to get into the gym, right? And the other thing is, miraculously, I'm still not sure how this worked, but I was putting my son to bed each night. So after doing all the driving both ways to get back to Columbus, I was still putting him to bed. All of the purple stuff was the church that I was working at, this sort of lavender stuff. And then blue stuff was gigs, with my band. And so, I mean, I was working 25 hours a week at the church, full-time at at Ohio State. And then I was a full-time student with an assistantship at a school that was 2 hours away. And I was driving there 3 days a week. Right. So
25 hours at the church, full-time at the school, and then the student full-time 2 hours away, still putting your son to bed every night. So people who complain about stuff, okay, about too much stuff and so on and so forth, I just want to ask something there, because you would notice there, okay, in this calendar, it doesn't say, oh, I'm watching Game of Thrones for 2 hours, or I'm playing video games for 3 hours, or right? How important is that? How important is what you're not doing? How important is that aspect?
Well, the thing is that you can't be productive in a positive way if you're doing a bunch of if you're just farting around. Um, and again, shout out to Solomon Jones. But one of the things that he talks about this Nofap thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why that's like a really positive thing, right? Because you're wasting time, you're wasting energy, you're wasting vitality doing that instead of actually being engaged in productive, useful, positive stuff. And I have to commend him for stepping up and and being willing to discuss that,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a that can be a tough thing. I mean, especially because there's some other folks that were kind of talking about Nofap, but to my knowledge, he's really the only one consistently talking about it in the Black manosphere. And so so that's an important thing. So there's that. The thing with the video games. Look, I have a PS4 and my son loves video games. My son is 7. He loves video games. Okay. And I love baseball, MLB The Show. That's my game. Matter of fact, I had an Xbox 360 and I got rid of that because the MVP baseball game that I really liked, that they no longer make it, because EA Sports that makes that game, the contract for Major League Baseball got bought out from under them, so they had to discontinue that game. And so I really didn't even play any Xbox for a long time. And then I was like, well, let me get a PS4. My son he's trying to deal with some video games, and yeah, I play video games, but I'm not playing video games instead of doing stuff that I need to be doing. I'm not I'm not playing video games instead of chasing money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But everybody has to have some kind of way that they can unwind, that they can relax. That has turned into a way that I relax. I also I watch Netflix. See, one of the things that people do is when they see examples of folks that are very productive, what they'll try to do is they'll say, well, but I couldn't do that because I still have to have a life. I still have to, be able to do X, Y, and Z and all like this. So they try to deal with that. And the thing is that I still have a life. I'm doing I do all kinds of things. I'm sure my wife would like us to go on more vacations and those kind of things, but that's a pretty common kind of thing. But yeah, I have a life. Me and my son do stuff together. I play video games from time to time. I'm watching, what am I watching? The Crown right now on Netflix. So I'm doing regular stuff that other folks are doing, and I'm still going to the gym. And but I am an introvert, so I don't really have a big hunger to do like random events where there's a lot of people that I don't know.
That having a life thing is a very much an extrovert thing, or very much an externally motivated person type thing. Because I know extroverts that are also intrinsically motivated, that right. they're so, and it has to do with also what is said on the screen right there. Right. Would I consider myself an overachiever, right? So before I answer that, I want to just continue on with what you're saying. And I'm sorry, did I cut you off at a bad spot there? Okay. So the whole thing about having a life, okay. Now I'm going to try not to get heated about this, okay? But there's certain things that just to me doesn't make any sense. Are you going to go to a farmer in the 17th century and talk him about work-life balance, right? Where does his life start and where does the farm end? If you are talking about work-life balance, you are so caught up in the matrix, man. You are so ass backwards, okay? But there's hope, there's hope, there's hope for you. If you're still saying things like, oh, but I still have to have a life, you don't understand what life is, okay? Everything is everything. If you're not coming from a true look, everything that I do is I'm coming from a place where I'm extremely motivated to do it. And I feel extremely proud of myself that I do those kinds of things. And there is still a backlog of lists of things. Life is finite and there's infinite amount of potential. Okay. I have, to use my kind of acreage analogy, I am the one that knows all the uncultivated acres of land that I have. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I have lots and lots of still uncultivated talents and so on and so forth that I have not completely actualized yet. So people making this kind of a life thing, like what is this life thing they're talking about? Going to TGI Fridays, watching some silly show where people are marketing perfume to you, or what is this life thing? Because for me, life is the action and the doing and the working on things that I want to do. Everything from the getting of the money so that I can have the time, right? The money gives me the time and it gives me the resources so that when I have that money, I can fly to LA, pay a sound engineer, get in the booth, record a song, stay at a nice hotel, and then leave, right? And get my music jollies that way, right? That way I don't have to be the music engineer and blah, 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 right? So I get that money. It's a way of kind of crystallizing and concentrating time, other people's time in this case, so they can do the act for me, set up everything and outsource stuff so that I can continue then maybe start writing the book that I want to write as well. And also work on the YouTube channel and do my other side hustles and so on and so forth. If you are talking about work-life balance, you are deep in the matrix. You need to get out of that. Just use the farmer analogy. Yeah, maybe the farmer is not the sexiest kind of example to use. Okay, but where does his farm start? Where does his life begin? Do you think he was thinking about work-life balance? This is a very modern, very weird thing. It's a cubicle thing. They've put your life in a cubicle and you're falling for it. Okay, and I'll step up. I didn't get too heated. Okay, I didn't get too heated.
Yeah, and let's talk about the burden of performance that men have on them. The Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat. There is an expectation for work. We're here to work. Okay, we're not here to vacation. We're not here to hang out. We're not here. That's not the reason that we're here. Now, can we do those things? Yes. Can we hang out? Can we have vacations? Can we do all of those things? Yes, of course we can do those things. But that's not why we're here. We're here to work. And so much so that if we don't work, then we're not going to eat. Here, this is a better screen for me to share with my schedule. Let's look at this real quick because this actually shows the drive time. Yeah, there we go. So that's a better. There you go. That's what my schedule was. You see, okay. Now this is because of the time zone thing, but this is not 4:30. This was actually 5:30. And then I got home at around 8:30. And at this time, so my son's 7 now, so you can do the math. He was born in 2013, so he was only a couple years old, not even 2 years old yet. So we put his bedtime a little bit later so that I could see him, because I didn't see him in the morning. I was gone before my wife and my son were up. And but you see all the stuff, right? Here's weight training, right? You see this 4 days of weight training in there, squeezed between things and at different locations. Here's the church stuff right there. You see the big blocks of time, this church stuff. Here's the red stuff here. You can see all the red stuff. That's all Ohio State stuff, right? And commute time, right? I had commute time Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You can see that on the schedule. You can see where here's the commute time here. I had to come back and then teach a class, you know, and then I had study time and I had practice time worked into the schedule. The thing is that if you're going to write your schedule down, if you're going to use a calendar, you might as well write everything down.
Yep.
I don't know what the point of, okay, well, yeah, I've got a calendar and I just put, I'm putting, this kind of stuff on there, because for me, the point of a calendar is to release my mind of the burden of having to carry around what my schedule is, what I'm supposed to be doing all the time. Right.
100%.
So
someone mentioned earlier, about YouTube being a waste of time and so on and so forth. And when you mentioned the calendar thing and writing things on the calendar, it kind of came to mind. Okay. When the YouTube channels that I watch and when I'm able to watch them, okay, I actually write it down there. I'm like, 7:30 to about 9. I'll be on Kevin Samuel's show, right? I put it right there, KS. And then I have something else on the side, because watching KS, you can also be doing some drafting, right? There's certain things that you can do with other things. Obviously, I can't be reading a book at the same time, but I can be making drawings or doing calculations, no problem, while having that show there and dropping a super chat every now and then. It's so, but writing it down is key. Writing everything down is super key. And I don't know, I think I cut you off there.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing, right? Get everything down. The stuff that's important is going to get written down. And the stuff that's not important doesn't get written down. And that's what it is. So this, in conjunction with a sort of like a to-do list, so what my schedule does is it tells me what blocks of time are encumbered, right? Which blocks of time are being used for what. It doesn't say specifically what I'm going to be doing during those windows, but it does say what those windows are allocated for, right? What a to-do list does is to-do list says, okay, these are the things that I need to do. And the thing is that as we learn more about ourselves, and that's a very difficult task. Know thyself. I mean, which is it's something that you hardly. It's almost something that you can't even do. Which seems like a weird thing, but as you're trying to learn more about yourself, you'll start to figure out how much time you actually need to do certain kinds of tasks. And so your schedule is not going to be static. It's going to have to be, you're going to have to be constantly changing it. I remember showing my schedule to someone once, and they started getting like stressed out or like anxiety because of their perception of how much stuff was going on. And I said, no. You're looking at this the wrong way, right? This is on the page, so it doesn't have to be in the front of my mind. That's where the stress is if it's in the front of your mind. Oh, am I forgetting something? I remember this is before I was using any kind of calendar. This is years and years and years ago. I may even still have this piece of paper. Basically what it was a piece of paper that I had where I would write down the date of gigs that I had. It was super clunky, and all it would have taken is for me to lose that piece of paper and I would have been totally lost. But it was just like a running list of all these dates where I had gigs. And I've come a long way. That's my point. I have come a long way. I didn't start this way. I was not born with, a clarinet and a map of Europe. I was not born, having certain skills and things that I said, hey, there's a lot of stuff I want to accomplish in my life. And I either get disciplined and work out a system that's going to facilitate that, or I'm just going to be, feeling a lot of regret.
Excellent. You know what? I use the calendar too, as you had mentioned, and the thing about it teaching you how long things how long things take is super key. Don't let the calendar be a tyrant. Okay, the calendar is a guardrail. You're not so great at estimating how long certain things take, so you're gonna need to adjust. Okay, you leave some room that, okay, well, and then as you go, you learn. Okay, but I also just keep random lists of things. Okay, I got to do this, I got to do this, and I check it off. So if I'm scratching things off, then because that scratching of things off, no matter how little, gives you that sense of accomplishment. That sense of accomplishment is great for motivation, and that motivation will help you fight against sloth. So if I were to move things along a little bit, okay, if we were to kind of continue, if I were to touch upon the exercise aspect from a more like when the sloth is right in your face aspect, because the first thing I mentioned is when the sloth is right in your face, you're lazy, you're feeling lethargic, you don't want to get out of bed, you're feeling apathy, right? Have a system, have a checklist of things that you do whenever you're in that situation to roll yourself out of that situation. And one of the things I do is simple, the warm up, right? So your body is, you need to kick it into, you need to warm it up, right? You need to do something. It's like it's like your car engine in the winter, right? That kind of a situation. So I have certain simple exercises that I do. Now, and not to get too technical here, because what I'm about to say is for people who maybe they listen to my meditation type stuff, and then they are into that kind of, they notice things, right? But next time you get into a scenario, and then we'll address the question that Nicer has here as well. But next time you're laying in bed and you cannot get up, this always works, okay? But as I said, you may have to ease yourself into doing things like this, because mastery of subjective consciousness is a you got to take time to get there. But basically, if you are finding it difficult to get up out of bed, what do? Here's what you do. You say, Ike, lift up your little finger, okay, in your left hand. Boom, you lift it up, right? Lift it up 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now roll your palm over. Just start giving yourself little tasks. Okay, this is something that you should actually do. So it's not something, I'm not going to give you kind of like the explanation of the mechanics behind it. That's pointless. You do it and you see it and you'll be able to intuit how it works. And the point is, it's actionable. This is getting shit done, right? This is not a physiology class or one of my meditation type of lectures, if you will. But trust me, turn your hand, look to the left, look to the right. You just start ramping it up. Next thing you know, you're out of bed. Okay. You don't even actually have to say, now I get out of bed. You don't actually do that, because that's the thing that you have to do. But It's about like slowly pumping agency, slowly pumping, like I can do this, I can do, and it completely changes your mind frame. And all of a sudden you're out of bed. So try this, okay, next time. And the thing about writing down excuses is also an important thing. If you bring out the external negativity from your head and you put it down in front of you, especially if you're a certain kind of person, you're gonna be like, oh my God, I'm being such a bitch ass right now. Like, that's kind of what Nicer is saying. Like, if you write down the excuses that you're giving yourself and you actually put it up there, like now it's out in the world, it's not hidden anymore. Sometimes can be a great motivation to be like, you know what, this is silly. Why am I, assuming, and this is all generally assuming that you're a healthy person. You don't have to go through years of therapy to clean up why, maybe you have depression and things like that. That's kind of all assumed, and I think we should say that. This is just for sloth, not clinical depression, right? But the warm-up exercise is one thing, and then I want to add one aspect of just a tactical thing. You mentioned the calendar as a tactical thing, for example, and we talked about that, okay? Being able to externalize, okay? So you're externalizing, and so that you don't have to think about, all these different things that you need to do. The stress is not in your mind and so on and so forth. You're also using it as a way of being able to gauge and adjust to how long things take. Nicer mentioned the externalizing also of excuses so that you can see how much of a bitch ass you're being. And then there is what I call the one-touch policy. Okay, this is something that if you think, let's say you're in construction, okay, or you're building something, and there is a big heavy brick. You go over to the brick, you pick it up, you look at it and then you put it down again. You don't place it where it's supposed to be. What is that? That is very inefficient. Would you agree? Right? So the one touch policy is this. If you think about it, if you look at it, like when you walk past those dishes and you look in the sink, it's in line with that, using your present self as an assistant to your future self as well. The one touch policy is if it touches your mind, if the thought comes to you, oh, I got to take those clothes out of the hamper it's too late. Now you got to do it. You got to do it. Just do it right then, because it's similar to picking up bricks, putting them down. Pick up this bucket, put it down. It's like, dude, when you pick up the brick, you've expended the energy of picking up the brick. Go put the brick where it goes. Don't go downstairs, look at the sink, and be like, okay, I'll saddle my future self with it. I'm going to take this and throw this obstacle in the front of my future self. Plus, what it helps to keep sloth at bay, because remember I said the longer you don't do things, okay, the more likely you're not to do them, because you're going to be like, oh, I'm such a loser. I didn't do it. Do I even really deserve a clean sink? That kind of a thing, right? So I call it the one touch policy. It works. You wake up, you walk past that hamper. You walk past that sink full of dishes. You walk past, and it's a question also of starting things. Because starting, as everybody knows, is the hardest part. So when it comes to your mind, okay, when you think, oh, the book I'm trying to write, just start it, right? Go and the starting may be even a planning, where you're like, you know what, I'm going to diagram this little thing. I'm going to plan something out. I'm going to create a calendar or a scheme. I'm going to externalize, take it out of my head, start it. Don't, because it's equivalent. Again, I cannot overemphasize this. You thinking that I'm just going to walk past and checking all these lists of things that I got to do in the future. I'm going to walk past this. Oh, I'll do that later. I'll do this later. I'll do this later. That's like you picking up bricks and putting it down, picking up bricks and putting it down. You already picked it up, put it where it needs to go. And it works like a charm. Your efficiency will go way, way, way up. So I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Thunder.
Yeah. There's something about building confidence in yourself. So a schedule is worthless, and a to-do list.
Well, hold on one second. Is it in the chat? Can you hear Dr. Thunder clearly, or is it just my headphones? Is the sound clear from Dr. Thunder, or is it my headphones?
Can you hear me?
I hope it's just my headphones.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it says you're Borgin. Yeah.
I'm working.
Static, Borgin.
All right.
Struggle Wi-Fi.
Is that better now?
Yes, it sounds a little staticky, almost like if like a cord is not completely plugged in or something.
That's strange. Let's see here. Let me try this one more time here. All right. Here, why don't you take me out and put me back in?
Okay, I will take you out. Oh, you know what? I'll just. Not bad for studio, but. Yeah, Dr. Thunder, just come back in and I'll bring you in. Okay, come back in. I'll bring you in. Perhaps unplug and replug and so on and so forth, and we'll just keep this going here. So I mentioned, in terms of, there are two ways to look at this. There is you are feeling the sloth. You are feeling not unable to get out of bed. You are feeling that apathy and lethargy and inertia. What do? I say the number one thing is to have a system, because at that point, it's not the time for you to start thinking of the things that you need to do. So one system that I have is that, lift up your pinky, lift up this, that's one system. The other major system that I have is the system of hydration, right? You hydrate, you give yourself about 45 minutes to hydrate. You give yourself about an hour and a half until your urine is clear. And generally speaking, you're doing better, right? The other aspect is, how do you keep sloth at bay, right? And that has to do with things such as the one-touch policy that I mentioned, right? Or the using your past self or your present self as an assistant to your future self. There are other tactics too, but you want to say something real quick?
Yeah, is this better?
You're still Borgin. That's it's still staticky. That's strange.
That's really strange. Here, I'm gonna do something. You can kick me back out again. I'm gonna do something, and then I'll
Okay.
come back in.
Excellent. Building as we fly it. So, what other tactics, practical tactics can we talk about here? Okay. Task switching. Task switching is key. Do you know what I mean when I say task switching in the chat? Is this something that is that you already intuitively understand? L. Boyd and Mr. Quinton and everyone else in the chat. Do you know what I mean when I say task switching as a way of handling sloth? You woke up 7 a.m. in the morning. You're doing spreadsheets. Okay, you've been spreadsheeting all morning. It's now 10 a.m. and you feel like you're tired. You feel like you can't go on. You feel like, you know what, I need a nap. Okay? But guess what? You don't need a nap. How many times have you noticed that when you just switch over, right, from the spreadsheeting to maybe some things that you needed to mark up, or maybe some things that are handwritten, right? All of a sudden you have all kinds of energy, right? It's almost like you have these separate sets of batteries, okay? Because obviously you're using different parts of your capacities, okay? Spreadsheeting has exactly like a mental refresh, exactly, okay? Spreadsheeting has, it's engaging one side of yourself, okay? So there's task switching, there's also medium switching. I usually often go from drawing stuff on screen or doing calculations on screen to getting up. For example, I have a standing desk over there. Okay, that's my standing desk. That's what I call position switching. Sometimes you're just not good. You're done with sitting down. It's not that you're tired. You're done with sitting down. You got to get up. I go to the standing desk. Okay, and I start writing. Or I go to my little writing desk. There's a writing desk behind me right here. Okay, this is where I do it's all, you see the pens all lined up here, pens and paper and stuff like that. I look away from the screens, in other words, okay? I look away from the screens. I go over and I just do everything on paper. I print out stuff. If there's something that I need to be reading, I print it out. I turn around to my paper desk, or I go to I have blackboards everywhere and whiteboards everywhere. Sometimes you need to pace, right? Sometimes you need to pace, and so on and so forth. Let's see here if Dr. Thunder is still.
I hope this is better.
It's still staticky. That's
Can you
very.
understand what I'm saying?
Okay, I'll let the audience decide. Can you guys hear and understand what he's saying? And we'll just we'll alpha our way through it. It just has that kind of scratch after you say this stuff, like almost like an amp that's not completely plugged in. It's kind of like,
Let's see.
yeah. And Nicer saying she's never struggled with sloth. I actually had to learn to slow down. Oh, look at you. The Capricorn Way. Shout out to you. They hating on Dr. Thunder with the static. Okay, but
that?
I'll just keep on going. Go ahead. Say something again.
Is this better?
It's less staticky now, but it's still there.
Okay, I'm gonna try one more thing.
Oh, that sucks. So, tactics. There's task switching. There is medium switching. Medium just means say something. Oh, you're not done. Okay, whenever you're ready, let me know. Task switching. There's medium switching, which is you're just going from a computer to a paper, from a small paper to a large paper, from standing, from a paper to a whiteboard. Or also position switching or location switching, right? Have you gotten tired of doing work at your house, but all of a sudden you go to Starbucks back when they let us go places? Where you go to Starbucks, you go to a library, you go somewhere else, a different location. I also do this, okay? I have different offices in the house, right? There is an office in the kitchen. There is an office kind of like by the fireplace. There is an office up here, right? So it turns out that I can feel tired over here, but I just unplug the laptop from the screens and I go downstairs to the kitchen with my cup of coffee, and all of a sudden I feel rejuvenated. This is a key tactic. Okay, now you're on the tactical level where you need to get things done. Sloth or laziness is coming at you. You're feeling a little bit of apathy. You're feeling the inertia and so on and so forth. The switching, either task switching, medium switching, position switching, location switching, absolutely key there, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing there, Dr. Thunder?
Is this better?
I think you're perfect.
All right.
What was it?
I'm still not exactly sure. Something to do with my sound card. I've got an external sound card, and it was doing some weird stuff, but that's all right. We're back. But I was saying the thing about confidence, the role of confidence. Confidence is important because the more times that you felt the temptation to be lazy and to not follow through with something you knew you had to do, and that you just go ahead and just do it, when you do that, you start, it's like putting it in the bank. It's like putting confidence in the bank. And what happens is, so then over, say, 2 months, every single time you felt like quitting, or you felt like, you didn't want to do something, or you just were feeling lazy and you just gave, and you didn't give into it, and you still did what you needed to do. What happens is there's a sort of psychological momentum. You know that you can do it. Even when you feel like you don't feel like doing it, you still know that you can do it. You know that you can do it. And so you can push through, and that's a big deal. And like I said, a lot of this stuff exists in the mind. It's all psychological. I did also want to say this thing about energy and time. So the thing, time waits for no man, right? And part of the reasons for trying to set your schedule up in a certain way is to facilitate being able to fully utilize the time that you have. We don't know how much time we actually are going to have, right? And so there should be a sense of urgency about what it is that we're doing. And so there should be a sense of urgency about getting ourselves organized, getting things, on the calendar and working. But time management is it's a sort of a misnomer, right? Because time waits for no man, right? So you can't manage time. All you can do is control the events in your life, right? Or you can be controlled by the events in your life. Those are your two options. You can call the shots. You can be out in front of it. You can be behind the 8 ball, or you can be in front of the 8 ball. But those are your choices. Those are your options. And so getting your calendar, your schedule together, it is. I'm a realist. Okay. So, and so I recognize this as being a problem, a big problem. And so the solution is to get organized, right? I'm not going to put my head under the blankets. Oh, it'll just get better tomorrow. Oh, it's not a big deal. Oh, I'll have more time, everything. No. I'm looking around the world. I'm looking at my own life, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I mean, such and such thought that they were going to make it home from work yesterday, and they didn't. So there should be this sense of urgency. So there's that. And then the other thing is, it's not, we talk about time and having a limit on time, but we don't talk as much about energy, right? Because if you have time but no energy, so those are two things that you have to figure out how to use them. And you do need to rest a certain amount of time so that you can promote energy. You do need to eat a certain way so that you can promote having energy. Because you could have the time and you just can't stand up because you just don't have the energy.
Put down the sugar.
Right. And then the last thing I was going to say, just kind of punching this thing that you were talking about, the different sort of stations that you have. You know, you have the standing up, location. You got a location where you do your writing and you unplug from the computer and you do anything on paper, right? You can take the laptop, unplug it, and go somewhere else in the house and all like this. I didn't realize how motivated, well, not motivated, how much stuff like color, and having things situated in a certain way facilitated productivity until, I didn't realize how big of a factor that was until now. When I look back, I realized that I was setting things up in a certain way. I just wasn't putting very much stock in it. I didn't think it really mattered, but it turns out it really matters. And so I have this set up here. This is Dr. Thunder Studios Studio A. And then my Studio B is my office over at Ohio State. And then I have another office over at the church I work at. And they all are set up in a way that I can do music production and that I have some kind of video capability in that space. And it's important for me to have that, because if I don't, then it's too easy to start making excuses. Like if I need a certain kind of equipment or a certain setup in order to do work that I need to do, but I have to drive for 30 minutes to get to another location that has that stuff, then by the time I get there, the muse may not be speaking to me anymore. That's just how that works.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that you mentioned all that organization, and while somebody was asking, L. Boyd is saying, is an orderly house, does an orderly house count? I think that one is kind of clear. Like if you just imagine yourself going to your bathroom and the medicine cabinet is messy. There's hair and all kinds of junk all over the sink. Everything is messy. There's towels on the floor. It's just, there's freaking lipstick on the mirror, right? How does your mind feel? How do you actually feel? There is very little, and this goes to your point, very little separation between the internal and the external. After all, the universe is one, right? All separation is kind of, in our head, so to speak, anyways. So when you look at that cabinet, okay, that is almost like it goes in you, it possesses you. That restroom possesses you, quite literally, and it messes you up. But now, picture a clean bathroom, pure, nice, freshly Windexed, and everything, the towels are nice and fluffy and folded, and everything is organized, okay? You're in a different space. You're possessed by a different thing at that point. And in order to keep that organized, the one-touch policy is super clear, it's super key, okay? In other words, that's why I mentioned the one-touch policy as a way of kind of like keeping sloth at bay, right? You go downstairs and you see one fork in the sink. Don't say, I'm going to wait until I finish my coffee tomorrow. No, get rid of the one fork in the sink because you already saw it. It has already infected your mind. It is already in there. It's already bugging you. You've already started to create a list. You've already started stressing yourself out. Trust me. Well, don't trust me. You already know this. Intuitively, you know you're stressing yourself out. But take action. You have already touched it. You've already picked up the beam. So wash it. It's too late now. It's too late. You can't escape it. It has already invaded you. And trust me, you know what tends to happen? Because people tend to think that they're saving time by not doing it right there. Okay? They think, I don't have time right now. No! Trust me. You're going to have a clean house at all kinds of time in the future. Because what you're doing is you're throwing crap in front of you, but you're also putting crap in your head. You are less efficient because you have this, I got to do this thing in my head. Plus, you have this obstacle that is in your future that you actually have to do. You're losing time twice. So, boom, you see that one fork? Get rid of it. Oh, one towel over here in the bathroom needs to be taken care of. Boom, get it done. You're not saving time by lumping it all up, because the more things you lump up, the less efficient you get. The more things you lump up, the more you need to walk. The more you're going to be walking into a bathroom that is possessing you and making you more and more inefficient. I don't know if perhaps we have some time. If somebody wants to, anybody that has a question, okay. This is the first. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is the inaugural episode of Getting Shit Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. January 2021. We do this monthly, okay? Last week of every month. Now it's Thursday, okay? Maybe it's gonna be Tuesday next time. Well, who knows? Perhaps it'll be Saturday. But it's the last week of every month. We give practical. I come down from the mountaintops, okay? No metaphysics and epistemology or no theology. We talk about practical things with Ike and Dr. Thunder. And if anybody wants to join, I'm going to go ahead. If you have a question, for us, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link. But we have about 10 minutes for that, or we could just continue and wrap this up. If I can go ahead and do the link thing here. But anyone, if you have a question, a comment. I'm sorry. Were you saying something?
Yeah. For clarity, it's not to start a discussion, but rather to ask a specific question that's on topic.
100%. Asking a specific question that is on topic. So there is if people talk about, you mentioned urgency. Okay. How do you determine the difference between what's urgent and what's important? And is that a key factor in overcoming sloth? Now, I know I'm getting it's a little more abstract now, and I was like, we're in some kind of management class or something, right? But, we've given them enough meaty, juicy, practical stuff. So maybe I can ask a question of this sort that talks about urgency versus important. Is urgency important as far as overcoming sloth?
Well, so it's interesting because you were talking about, basically kicking a task into the future, so the future you has to deal with it. You were talking about that, and the way that I discuss that with my students is the tyranny of the urgent, right? And important versus urgent, and knowing the difference between those, right? So the important things are things that if you neglect them for long enough, they'll become urgent. And then things that are urgent, they must be taken care of right now, which displaces other things that are important, which eventually makes them turn into urgent matters, right? So you're running around putting out fires. You can't be strategic that way. You're at the behest. You're at the beck and call of the next urgent matter, and so on. When I use the term urgent, when I was talking about getting things together, that's because of an external factor that we can't control, right? You can't control how long you're going to live, right? You don't know what the future holds and all of that. In the situation, important versus urgent, largely I'm referring to things that we actually do have control of. We have a lot more control than we think we do. Oftentimes we will speak of how we don't have any control. We don't have, the other people are controlling what we do, and we need the government to do this for us, or we need other folks to do whatever else. So but we don't, not taking that whole personal agency thing seriously, right? And doing what it is that we can do to better ourselves, to better our families, to better our communities, and then and so on.
Gotcha. So we have someone in here, and we have a few minutes here to ask the question. But I was gonna address the question also that Young Swift asked, which is the apathy, right? I'm gonna answer it from a purely subjective point of view. Purely subjective point of view is just that's life, right? Like it's like thing like to do like those things for me don't. It's like they don't correlate. It's like there's things that need to get done, and as smart as as you are, Young Swift, you know the things that need to get done. If you don't have some kind of, again, as I mentioned, clinical depression, some kind of trauma in the past you need to get over, right? Then life should be a worthwhile endeavor overall. Then all the tiny little tasks that are to be done, like 80% of them are not to be liked, right? I don't like, doing my one touch policy, making sure I do everything. No, but I do it because guess what? I love life. It's that simple. Because then I get to live. I want to live, and I want to live in a way where I'm maximizing my potential, where I'm cultivating those acres of land. But anyways, not to bloviate and take too much time, Mr. Quentin, do you have a question for us on the topic, sir?
I do. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, chat. Good evening, Ike and Dr. Thunder. Thanks for having me. Dr. Thunder, when you presented your calendar, it took me back to something that that I have a bit of a struggle with. How does one avoid becoming a slave to planning? Because I seem to overplan and overextend myself when it comes to setting up my calendar. It can take an entire day to do something like that. How does one avoid that?
Yeah. So I think that the thing that I try to so first I want to say that I have the way that I'm wired is I have sort of worked my way into being more disciplined and organized. So my my struggle is to get to the place where I'm organized. It's not usually trying to work back from being more organized. But I'm going to say this though. I think scheduling things where you are very much allocating time, each hour is accounted for part of the time, and then also having periods of time where you're more task and project oriented, where you have bigger chunks of time and you're sort of doing tasks within those bigger chunks of time. I think trying to develop a balance between the two of those, just sort of forcing yourself to say, okay, Monday to Thursday, I'm going to be really rigid, very specific about what it is that I'm doing. But then Friday, that's going to be an open day. And in fact, that's how my schedule tends to be. My Monday through Thursday are very scripted. Friday tends to be more open. And then family time on Saturday and Sunday, typically, although I have church obligations and gigs and other things that come up. But that stuff gets scheduled on an as-is kind of on an as-needed, rather, basis. I hope that was helpful.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And it seems like, bam, right there on the dot, okay? Right there on the dot. We are doing well in terms of our scheduling and our time today on this first show, getting shit done with Ike and Dr. Thunder. To-do list app helps a lot. And Kareem Sharif, thank you very much for the $25 super chat. Thank you for supporting the show, sir. Thank you. I think it's a sir. If I'm wrong, well, my apologies. One thing I want to mention, and this has to do with the things that you do not do, ladies and gentlemen, especially for the gentlemen, okay? You know what's a huge waste of time? Perhaps, Dr. Thunder, you may see where I'm going here. What is the biggest waste of time in the life of men? Tell
Oh
'em.
yeah. And we said we was going to spend some time on this, and then we ended up not doing so. But chasing women.
Chasing women. Chasing women. Chasing women. Uh, again,
Now,
I
I'm
get
gonna
heated
say-
about
I'm
certain
gonna
kinds of things. Okay, I'm
No,
not,
no,
and we're right at the end. Okay, we're right at the end. I'm not gonna get heated, but go on, Dr. Thunder.
I would say I want to say something practical, and I know in the manosphere space, there's a lot of kind of negative talk about marriage and stuff like this, and but for me, marriage was the only option that was gonna work, and folks like Kevin Samuels, who's a supporter of marriage. I mean, he promotes marriage on his platform, and others. I know that you're engaged, Ike,
Mm-hmm.
and so a positive thing about that is that when you get married, that commitment, it has made certain choices for you, right? I no longer have to make decisions about things that have anything to do with women, chasing women, anything women other than my wife, right? So that it focuses me in on a particular thing, and it kind of gets things going in a particular direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if that was the only thing that it provided, was causing me to have a more restricted, a more specific and focused view of what my life is going to be, then that is very, very positive. So yeah, um, that's my
100%.
thing. Yeah.
100%. And I will do some some chastising or admonish, well, whatever here about like, look, it also, it just puts you in a position where you're actually less of a man in the eyes of the majority of men. And also, it should do the same thing in your eyes. What I mean is chasing women, right? If you're worried about women and chasing women, what they look like, it's crazy to me. I'm answering again subjective. I'm getting all of my feelings here now. It's insane that you're doing that. And then number two, you tend not to even get the respect that you deserve. We all know how things work, right? We all know that desperation and not showing mastery is not the way to get anything in the world. So if you're like, oh well, this is because of women, or how do I do my Tinder profile today, or all this, that, and the other, then what are you doing, bro? Like, what are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your life? It's a huge time suck. You're not getting anywhere with anything. You're not getting the respect that you actually deserve, or the kinds of women that you actually want anyways, because trust me, if you spend the time having that kind of a calendar that Dr. Thunder has, getting the things done, the women will be jumping over the fences, throwing themselves at you, okay? Shooting themselves through cannonballs. You will have to be dodging them and blocking them with shields and so on and so forth. If you're getting things done, women will be the last thing on that you have to worry about. Keeping them away will now be exactly. Keeping them away will now be the task, not chasing them. It's like they just, anyways, because again, women wait at the finish line.
Mr. Quentin with the $50 super chat.
Woo! Let me put that up on the screen. Thank you very much. He says appreciation for practical, actionable advice. Thank you both. Yes, okay, and I'll come down from my little soapbox about the woman stuff, okay, because trust me, and everybody says it, everybody knows it's true. In sales, we talk about not having commission breath. We talk about that, it's just, come on. Like, if you get things done, the women will be at the finish line if you want to be concerned about that kind of stuff anyways, right? They'll be there, okay? It's there, they're good. They're there to pick up from the top of that all kinds of hierarchies, where you're playing the merchant hierarchy, or the scholar hierarchy, or the warrior hierarchy, whatever kind of hierarchy games you're playing, focus on that. They have nothing to do with women, and then the women will be there in droves, okay? And if you want that, then you can indulge. That's your thing. But please, gentlemen, get that out of your list, okay? Get that out of your head. It's a total waste of time, along with the Game of Thrones and so on and so forth, so on and so forth. So today we talked about sloth. This is the first episode of Getting Stuff Done with Dr. Thunder. Sloth manifests itself in many, many different ways, okay? It's not just the lethargy, the apathy, the laziness, the inertia that you feel, not wanting to get out of bed. It's not just that, it's also psychological. It comes in the form of procrastination, the fear of the unknown. Also comes in the form of a certain kind of self-sabotage, whereby since you haven't done some things, you feel like you're not worthy of doing these things. And why should I even do it? I haven't gotten this book started, so why should I start this book I'm going to write? I've not, started my LLC in the past year that I was supposed to do, so why should I even bother doing that? Okay, and I said, for me, the main thing when I separate it into two parts. There's sloth right in front of you. You wake up and you can't move, right? That's one thing. And then there's keeping sloth at bay. When it's right in front of you, the most important thing to remember is you need to have a system. I mentioned a couple of things like, okay, I'm going to give myself about an hour and a half to hydrate. I'm also going to do certain kind of exercise to warm up myself, get the blood flowing, feel the heat in certain parts of my body. If I'm not feeling the heat there, then I know that I need to at least feel the heat there before I check other systems. Check my video on my pyramid method for energy management, where I went into like a whole hour and a half of this kind of stuff, okay? And then I have some more tactical stuff that, outside of the body, tactical stuff that have to do with keeping sloth at bay, the one-touch policy, right? Tactics such as task switching and medium switching and position switching and location switching. So these are the things that we've kind of discussed in this video. Any last words, Sir Thunder?
Yeah, I mean, both Ike and I have several other things that we're doing. Ike frequently live streams. You all know that. And he's got lots of great content on his channel. Very, thought-provoking, great stuff. And I interviewed Ike on my channel, on my Conversations with Dr. Thunder series. And I've also interviewed like Donovan Sharp and Solomon Jones, Hotep Jesus. And tomorrow I'm interviewing Jessica X. So if you all are interested in that kind of thing, then you can find a lot of that material on my YouTube channel. In addition, I have a series called the Blue Pill Testimonials. And then on top of that, most of my interviews are actually with musicians. That's I'm trained as a musician.
One of the mods, can you put his channel on? I know Nicer, you got Dr. Thunder's channel, right? Can you drop that in there so that people can go and know where to find? As he said, he'll be interviewing Jessica X. So get ready for the dislikes, sir.
Yeah, well, if it comes with the extra views that you got, I'm all right with that.
Yep. The dislikes are welcome. The smoke is welcome, along with the extra views. Yes, check out Dr. Thunder's channel. Okay. I interrupted you. What was that? Was that all?
Yeah. So thanks for coming and checking us out. We're gonna do this last week of each month. I think we're kind of figuring it out, what the day is going to be, but it'll be the last week of the month. So I'm in.
He is in, and you guys were in for the inaugural session, ladies and gentlemen. And we are going to go out. Okay, we are going to go out with the Battle Within, unless you guys want to vote again as usual. Yeah, I know it's whatever. 1 for Battle Within and 2 for Run. Okay, we already know what Nicer wants, but let's vote. 1 for Battle Within, 2 for Run. Okay, you guys in here can rig the system. L. Boyd, we know what you like, so go ahead and drop the vote down here so that we can take ourselves out. Again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for showing up on this first episode of the Getting Shit Done with Ike and Dr. Thunder, where we get practical, we get actionable, we get very, very down to the nitty gritty. Nicer has voted number 2, and someone is, they're fighting. Wow, it's a tie.
No, but look, Boyd put a lot of ones, so
Yeah, she's from Chicago. they vote often over there. a lot of, that she's down with the.
Is she even alive? All right.
Wow, she's some kind of Russian bot. Now I'm just messing with you. I know you're in Cali, but when you vote like that, that's Chicago style voting. But I'm gonna play both of them. Okay, I'm gonna start with Run, and then we're gonna go to Battle Within. Thank you very much. This was a great. I think we were able to keep it nice and concise. The danger for people like myself and Dr. Thunder is to go long-winded and so on and so forth. So, but I think we're doing a good job. We're keeping it practical, keeping it actionable. We're staying within the time constraints, and great job, Dr. Not Dr. Quinton, but Mr. Quinton. His voice just, the way his presence and his voice just, I've bestowed upon him the title of doctor, the way he came in and asked that question. But great example of the kind of caller that that we're looking for, which is you come in and you ask a question on the topic and we keep it moving. Okay. Yes. The other shows are for where we get to be we're more free and more open in that sense. Now we're gonna take ourselves out with first Run and then Battle Within. Thank you very much.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what dwells behind the curtain, the face of evil smirking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannon could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising and hearts are compromising, conditions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest and the righteous in your corners. Go. Run, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we can't forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we can't forget it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling out your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Run for the hills, let the will lead the mind. For living is the thrill with the doubt left behind. Amidst all the wicked, there is beauty to behold. We are fearless and intrepid from the depths of our soul. The hands of the steady glean the rose from the corn. The sweat of the weary brings us close to the dawn. The motion of the wheel brings the light to the mind. The align, it's divine. Run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling on your daughters and your sons, they come forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling on your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. Run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling on Jah data, son, Jah sons, we can't forget it. Run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated, Lord. Run, come, make we get it. Calling on Jah data, son, Jah sons, we can't forget it. On the shore, relentless in the war, the legions in our hearts, shed waters in our balls, the spirit and the flesh, the emotions that arrest, the cerebral will contest, propelling the unrest. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand, stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Trembling in the haze with the semblance of a blaze, with gratitude and rage, we touch another page with delirious delight, impervious to light. This vitality and might encourages the flight. Preachers and bandits with means underhanded, the teachers pedantic and lack understanding. So sweep out the sand with the broom in your hand, stand up, make we burn Babylon. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Guess I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. But the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within. Cause I can give the world to you, but the falling of the curtain is for certain. Be careful where you're lurking, demons searching. The spirit and the women fight the battle within.